First, I'm sure you've heard a lot about, anecdotally, people say, I feel so good ever since I started Qigong. I'm healthy, I'm full of energy, I haven't been sick in, 10 years and so forth. But these days, we're in the United States. It's not what we believe. It's what we would like the Western medical establishment to believe. And they always talk evidence-based medicine. They don't care if you have 100 examples, but they say, well, unless it's evidence-based, we're not going to use it. So we're dedicated to the following goals. We, meaning the Alliance, which is headquarters in UC Irvine. So we want to demonstrate that Qigong practice produces measurable changes in mind-body functions in a positive way. Okay. We also want to compare Qigong effects with those produced by physical exercises. Because let's face it, if you go ride the bike several times a week, that's very, very good. Okay. But how does Qigong give you things over and beyond that? Qigong Tai-Chi, okay? And then the Chinese way of thinking in traditional Chinese medicine, is that Qigong is one of the ways to increase your Qi. Acupuncture is the other. And some herbs too. And massage and so forth. So we would like to see how these things tie together in a scientific way. We are scientists, so we want to determine not just the effect, but the mechanism, the biological mechanisms underlying these Qigong effects. And then finally, at least for the Western medical community, we want to try to simplify some Qigong routines so that people could quickly learn and start using them. I don't do it anymore, but there were days that I spent early in my life teaching people Tai-Chi, 88 movements, too much, 24. People can't remember. And they're so stressed, in just trying to learn the movements, they never get the benefits because they never get there before they drop. So maybe we could design just a few routines, such as the ones I taught this afternoon and I'll teach tomorrow morning. And people just could quickly learn them and then concentrate on doing them rather than learning them. And that the research can show, okay, if you do this, these are the benefits, okay? And it's not just anecdotal, it's evidence-based. Now, Qigong research, the biggest hurdle is the inability to scientifically define and measure Qi. Qi is almost like an Oriental philosophical term. When the word Qi was first used, thousands of years ago, obviously, they had no concept of energy and just, vital energy. So it's not something that you can run out and, buy an instrument to measure Qi, because that would never happen. Because when the Qi word was coined, people didn't understand these things. So our initial objective is to establish some biological markers or surrogate markers so that we could quantify physiological changes associated with Qigong practice. And that these markers then could also be used for acupuncture research, herbal research, and so forth. In this talk, I'm going to go through half a dozen of these markers representing different mind-body functions that we could measure and quantify very well. By the way, in this context, I'm linking Qigong, Tai Chi in the same term. Fact of the matter is, the very, very vast majority of people in the United States do Tai Chi simply as an exercise, not as Qigong. Qi means, bioenergy. Gong is the exercise that can elevate the Qi. So when people do Tai Chi, in the gym or in health clubs or out in the park, the vast majority of them are doing it as an exercise, and that's fine. It stretches the muscles, the tendons, improves balance, particularly the old people. There are many papers published on these effects. So I want to start with serotonin level. Our colleague, Barry Jacobs, and also his coworker, Cassie Fornell at Princeton University, has done a series of experiments outside of Qigong research, but it's very relevant to Qigong research. They showed that repetitive movement in cats increases serotonin neuronal activity. And of course, serotonin neuronal activity is tightly associated with good mood, good sleep, good digestion when the level is adequate. And when the level is too low, then people are depressed, they can't sleep, and poor digestion, and so forth. So these experiments were done on an animal model, cats, okay? So they can do something we cannot do on human subjects. They stick electrodes into the brainstem of the cats and record from those neurons that use serotonin as a neurotransmitter. And they could count the firing of these neurons, thus the activity, and then watch the cat go through everyday activities. Here, they found something very interesting. There seems to be something unique about cats grooming themselves. It's like, can't have enough of it. They just like groom themselves, lick, groom, lick, brush. They really like to do that, okay? And they found that whenever they do that, there's a 5 to 10-fold increase in the serotonin neuron activity. They stop, that slows down to basal level. They could be walking, they could be licking, they could be watching TV, reading books, whatever they do, nothing. But once they start licking themselves and grooming themselves, they get 5 to 10-fold higher serotonin neuronal activity. And they deduce that this is because of a very concentrated repetitive motion that they do. Why is that relevant? In different types of Qigong, okay, they do this, Pengu Qigong, right? They do this, they do this. A lot of, or they do, cloud hands, or they do grabbing the people. Repetitive motion, okay? It's done a lot in Qigong. So you can deduce from these experiments that repetitive motion greatly increases serotonin neuronal activity and makes you feel good, sleep well, digest your food better, and so forth. Now, unfortunately, I have not been able to find volunteers, human volunteers, to allow us to put electrodes into the brain and to show that this is true in humans. But, these animal models are pretty reliable. So I thought I'll bring that up in this setting. Now, getting to human subjects. This is one of the members of our alliance, Brian Jones at Hong Kong University St. Mary Hospital. He published a paper showing the following. So he had a group of 24, 25 normal college students. They're not sick, but they've never done Qigong before. So they were taught Guolin Qigong. Guolin Qigong is very popular among cancer patients. It's a very intensive type of Qigong. It takes like 3 hours a day, okay? So those are people who really need extra boost in their health. And this group was taught Guolin Qigong, and every week, starting from 0 week to 14 weeks, they take blood samples and analyze for markers of the immune system. So this is done very quantitatively, and it's done in a very specific way. So first, they found that the stress hormone, cortisol, in the serum, this is something that's really bad for you. It depresses the immune system, among other things. That during the 14-week period, there was a steady decline in cortisol. And 14 weeks, there's like a 20% decrease in cortisol. They also count the number of white blood cells. But a lot of papers just count total white blood cells. But they count white blood cells secreting different things. In this case, the number of white blood cells secreting interferon gamma. Okay, that's the cancer-fighting agent that your body secretes. And there was a very significant increase from week to week to 14 weeks. Also, the number of white blood cells secreting interleukin-10 is declining every week. That's an anti-inflammatory hormone. And when you need to have your you have to fight cancer. You don't want to suppress your inflammatory response. So these are all very good trends showing that as few as 14 weeks of Qigong practice from zero, all these markers go the right way. Next, we're getting into a very important subject, and it's one of the foci of our research in my own laboratory. This is measuring blood flow. Now, in Chinese, the word blood and qi are almost always linked together. Blood, qi, qi, blood. 你的血气好不好？很好。你的气血怎么样？通畅不通畅？ So is your blood qi flowing or qi blood flowing? They always link together. Or people say 意道 qi dao, qi dao, xue dao. Okay, where the intention goes, so goes the qi, so goes the blood. 血为qi之母. Blood is the mother of qi. Okay, so if blood is not qi, it's tightly associated with it, at least in the thoughts of people thousands of years ago. So we decided to start out measuring blood flow. First, we want to measure blood flow on the peripheral, okay? And this is using a laser Doppler flowmetry instrument. So where the highway patrol uses the laser gun, to see how fast cars are moving in the freeway, so that they could give you a ticket if you're speeding. Here we're using an analogous instrument to measure how fast red blood cells are moving. And we put the probe right in the middle of the palm at the Laogong acupoint. That's where qi is supposed to be concentrated. And this can then measure quantitatively, how fast the red cells are moving, okay? So speed, the speed of red blood cells moving. Now we started with this experiment. This is a very high-level Qigong practitioner. And this is how fast the red cells were moving under normal circumstances. Then we say, okay, do your Qigong stuff, okay? And then all of a sudden, we see these big peaks of blood flow, okay, going like this. And we were amazed, wow, we've never seen anything like this, okay? Control subjects, will show like a flat line. So we say, what is it that this master is doing to consciously increase blood flow in the hand? And also you can measure it any place else, but this is like a standardized point. So in working with the Shanghai Qigong Institute, we came up with a specialized holder monitor about this big that we specially designed with the help for mind-body work. This has up to 16 electrodes to put on the head for EEG, up to 6 electrodes across the chest for EKG, so that we could analyze heart rate variability, 2-3 electrodes on muscles for EMG to see how relaxed the person is. Straps, one around the chest for chest breathing, one around the abdomen for abdominal breathing. A TV, a camera, just time locked to know exactly what they're doing. And we're going to incorporate even more functions. But right now, using that, we start to get an insight into this phenomenon. So just concentrate on this side, okay? So what this master was doing when we say do your thing is that he was doing deep breathing cycles, among other things. So the strap, around the abdomen shows that he was breathing about 4 deep breaths per minute. He's doing deep abdominal breathing. And this you saw just now, it's not the same person, it's a different person, okay? Big peaks of increase in blood flow by laser Doppler. But from the EKG, we analyze heart rate variability. Here we plot the time interval between beats. Beat number 1, number 2, number 3 in milliseconds. And you can see his heart rate was like going up and down and up and down, okay? What he's doing is he is using his breathing to drive his heartbeat. So if you look at let's look at the first line, okay? So he's breathing in, and his heart rate was increasing, okay? And because his heart rate was increasing, it drives, the cardiac output was increased, drives more blood, okay? So the blood flow is increased. And by doing deep breathing cycles, he is using breathing to drive his heartbeat through the autonomic nervous system. This is not something to do with the vacuum effect or something, because there are published papers in people with heart-lung transplant where these nerves are lost. They could do deep breathing cycles, but nothing happens. Also, we start to use control subjects, and we tell students to, okay, breathe at 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, 8 times, all the way to normal breathing at 12. And this effect is most pronounced at deep breathing rates, at 4 to 5, most 6 times per minute, which is what we all do when we practice Qigong. When you get down to get up to 8, 9, 10, then the effect is washed out. So deep breathing is certainly part of it. In other words, at rest, blood flow is at this level. By doing deep breathing cycles, a lot of people could drive it up this much. Now, how about, Qigong is regulation of body, respiration, and mind, okay? So regulating the breathing. How about the body? So being a practitioner, I've always, thought that Qigong and Tai-Chi exercises many times involve changing the height of the hand relative to the heart, okay? So for instance, the simple Lan Che Wei in Tai Chi, grabbing the peacock's tail, okay? So you have your Pang, Lu, okay? Dropping the hand, Ji, and then the An is pushing up. And my teacher has always said, you push up because you want to hit the opponent at the solar plexus and knock his breath out. That's the martial arts explanation. So now we put the probe in the Lao Gong, and just by doing this, so you're dropping the height from here to here, and blood rushes to the hand. Okay, so just by doing that, you can actually increase blood flow in the hand by itself, closing doors. 如风止背. Okay, so you can do that. But then, to do this properly, right? The teachers always say, we do this, breathe in, then breathe out. Okay, when you breathe in, your heart beats faster, it pumps blood more to the hand, and because of the height, your 2 things working together. So you get a big increase in blood flow to the hand. When you do this motion, you can do other motions, okay, in the hand. And then, if you didn't listen to your teacher and you do it wrong, breathe out, breathe in, the effects are kind of canceling each other, and then it's still a little bit of increase, but not nearly as much as this. So if you just take simple Tai Chi, okay, Bai He Lian Zi, or white crane spreading wings, okay, changing height, okay, Hai Di Zhen, needle at the bottom of the ocean, okay, so always changing height. Or even Ye Ma Fen Zong, parting wild horses mane, okay, they're always changing height. In Wu Dang Qigong, La Qi, so always changing height, okay. If the objective is to increase blood flow, then that's what you would do. Now, just quickly, well, why is it good to increase blood flow? You ask any Western medical doctors, oh yeah, of course, blood carries the oxygen, the nutrients, carries away the waste products. So drugs, so it's a good thing to increase blood flow. Decrease blood flow, particularly in older people, that becomes a problem. Wound healing becomes a problem. In some extreme cases, patients with what's called Raynaud syndrome, there's something wrong with their autonomic response, and the slightest amount of cold wind blowing on them, that's like a decreasing circulation, decreasing circulation. Their hands could get gangrene and have to be amputated. So this is a serious business. So getting increased blood flow peripherally is a good thing without much more explanation. Okay, so regulation of body, breathing. How about the mind? Okay, so we wanted to see if you affect the mind in simple ways and see how this wouldn't work. The simplest thing to do that is put stress on the body. And the simplest thing is stick your hand in ice water. Okay, that's the stress. Just for, huh?
You didn't do it.
This is magic. You see, did I do it? See that? Yeah. You look, you cannot do magic with people standing behind you. Okay, this is no magic because we quantify the temperature of the hand, okay, with infrared camera. So in the beginning, it's something like 35, 37 degrees, okay, and as I showed you, like deep breathing, you get these big peaks of increase in blood flow, just deep breathing, or doing Tai Chi with deep breathing, big peaks. There's some Qigong, some of you did it this afternoon, big peaks, okay. But when we just put the hand in there for like 20 seconds to cool it down to like, maybe 18 degrees, then these effects are much less. Because when you cool down, then the stress creates constriction of the blood vessels in the hand. And then all these effects are no longer as pronounced. Next, we get some of our subjects to just drink coffee. Caffeine is a vasoconstricting agent. So drinking coffee is like putting your hands in cold water. Okay, it'll wipe out those effects. Then another way to stress yourself is strenuous exercise. Okay, so I'm sure a lot of you have experienced this. The weekend warrior who doesn't exercise at all during the week, and then they go play tennis or basketball for 3 hours, they come back with a cold. Okay, because that's a big stress. So in this case, we get the subject to do this, breathe in, imagine here, breathe out, breathe in. So you get these waves of, big blood flow. And then we say, okay, take a really heavy dumbbell, okay? And just just do that. Oh, immediately this effect is gone. Because this is a big stress, okay? The body, raise the sympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system to say, send all the blood here, shut everything down, okay? Then this effect is completely gone, okay? So the conclusion here is to get nice blood flow all over the body, you have to regulate your body, your breathing, and your mind. In other words, be relaxed, wear warm clothes, loose clothing, think good thoughts, and do the movements just right, and do the breathing just right, and then you get big increases. Now, my teacher has always said, many of my teachers always say, teacher, am I doing it right, or how do I know I'm getting Qi? Okay, they always say, oh, if you're doing it right, the Qi feeling is like tingling, bloating feeling, warm feeling. Okay, well, that's exactly what you get when you have more blood going to the hands. Next, so breathing, when it gets more advanced, it's not just deep breathing in and out. It's holding breath. And I never understood, why is that a good thing to do? So, like just now, Dr. Chow demonstrated the simplest case. Breathe in, breathe out. Okay. When it gets more advanced, then like in Wudang, simple things. It's like breathe in, hold it for like 7 to 8 seconds before you exhale. Or more complicated, like in Tai Chi, it would be like, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, hold. See, in Chinese, it's called tu, na. Tu means, breathe in, breathe out. Na means to hold your breath. Tu, na. So all these exercises, or many of these exercises, have this holding component. Well, why is that good for you? As a matter of fact, when we're measuring like blood flow in the hand, actually oxygen, oximeter, measure oxygen level in the hand. When you hold, oxygen level goes down. Why could that be a good thing? So here we use another powerful technique called photon migration spectroscopy. We put a beam, a very weak beam of light, up here, and the light actually goes through the skin and the skull, and then it comes back out, and we could calculate how much of that beam has been absorbed by oxyhemoglobin, or you can just say oxygen level up there, okay? So first, we put this belt around the body to measure the breathing pattern, and in green, so it's breathing in, out, in halfway, hold. So I never give out, UC Irvine, everything is approved by the Institutional Review Board, and maintaining confidential information on the subject is very, very important. But many of these people you actually know very well. So in, out, in, halfway, hold. In, out, in, halfway, hold. In. So this is a complicated tool now. In red is the oxyhemoglobin, or you can just think of oxygen concentration up in the brain, okay? And you see these big peaks, of high oxygen level in the brain. Well, guess what they correspond to? They correspond to the hold. Every big peak is the hold. So whenever you hold your breath, your oxygen level, measured here goes down, it goes up there. How could that be? Well, the brain is the most important part of the body, okay? The brain doesn't know whether you're doing Qigong or Tai-Chi or what, or falling asleep, okay? The brain senses a drop in oxygen level and an increase in CO2 level in the blood. And the brain, being the most important organ, say, okay, what the hell with everybody else, okay? I'm gonna dilate all my blood vessels, okay, to allow maximum blood to go up to the brain to preserve the brain. That's what's happening. So when you hold, everything else, the oxygen level is dropping, and then the dilation of blood vessels in the brain allows an overcompensation, carrying more blood and more oxygen up there, so the total concentration of oxygen is actually the highest. So that's why people say when you do this, breath holding, they say that they feel really alert and really awakened and fresh, and they could perform better mentally and so forth, because they're pumping more blood to their brain by holding their breath. Now, that's the short-term effect. Okay, so short-term effect is, I know it's late, if you're gonna fall asleep, hold your breath and all of a sudden you wake up, okay? Something else? I sat next to a mountaineer, somebody, climbing the Himalayas, and she said, oh, no kidding. He said, when I'm up in like 15,000 feet, and when I'm gonna faint or something, I hold my breath. And people say, you're crazy, holding your breath, and you're gonna faint for sure. When I hold my breath, I just all of a sudden wake up. I said, well, so, all right. Now, the long-term effect, this person and several others that we measured, they're in their 50s or 60s, okay? And they all give this. So when I get my our college students to say, okay, breathe in, breathe out, hold your breath. Oh, they could generate these very well too, big increases. But when we get our professor colleagues in the 50s and 60s, they do this, very little, almost nothing happens, okay? And it seems to be an age-dependent thing. At age 70, there's almost no response. Hardening of the blood vessels, okay? And it seems like years of training is like exercising the small blood vessels in the brain, and the 50s and 60s, but the brain blood vessels are equivalent to those of people who are in their 20s. Now, of course, we're talking about small samples here, and we need to have a much bigger database, but at least the preliminary data is very encouraging. So we analyze the heart rate variability, and I said here that at rest, there's a little bit of variation. So this is time interval between beat number 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 500. There's a little bit of variation. Normally, that's perfectly healthy. Then the Qigong master started doing deep breathing, and then he's driving his heart rate up and down and up and down. I already talked about that. Then this particular master got into deep meditation. And then all of a sudden you see very high frequency variation. The heart is like fast, slow, fast, slow. Now it's counterintuitive. This is actually a very good sign. So we studied a number of, or many normal subjects over a 24-hour period by wearing these meters. And we find that normal people get this pattern too. When? In the middle of the night. So when people go to sleep at midnight, okay, by 2 o'clock, they start to generate this high frequency variation. And then by 5 or 6, it's gone. And they could be sleeping till 8 o'clock. Okay, so they get 4 or 5 hours of really deep sleep in the middle of the night, and that's when they show this. The really accomplished Qigong people, when they meditate, within 2 minutes, they get into this state. In other words, when they meditate for half an hour, it's almost as good as like taking a 3-hour nap, because they bang right in the deep rest state. Now this afternoon, somebody gave me a lead question by saying, "Oh, you mean it's just like falling asleep?" It's not no big deal. It's just like sleeping, so I've got plenty of time to sleep. I can't say that, you can't say that, but some people have plenty of time to sleep. So it's no big deal. So we wanted to see, in addition to deep sleep, what are the benefits they possibly could be getting from this Qigong meditation. Now, it's been known for some time that when people meditate, the brain waves slow down. That's what they say. When you measure by EEG brain waves at the center mid portion of the brain, mid frontal part of the brain, normally when you're wide awake and thinking and so forth, you get what's called beta waves. Okay? So these are small waves of about 20, 24 per second. And then it's been reported that when people get into a meditative state, then there's a slowing down of the waves into so-called alpha waves, about 10, 12 peaks. And then deeper into Qigong meditation or any type of meditation, well, they slow down even more into theta waves, like 6 peaks per second. That's been said for many years now. But when somebody falls asleep, they get exactly this type of change. So again, you know, how is that different from just having good sleep? Well, we then turn to the state of the art. We don't record just from here. We record from 108 positions on the scalp, okay, over long periods of time. And so here is time, 10 minutes of rest, 30 minutes of meditation, 10 minutes of rest, 30 minutes of meditation, 10 minutes of rest. Okay? And instead of just looking at one electrode, we looked at all 128 electrodes and look at all frequencies and feed it all into the computer. And we use, together with UC San Diego, the Center for Neural Computation, and we use what's called independent component analysis. We look at everything and let the computer tell us what's so unique about this data set. And the computer doesn't know what's going on, but came back to us and say, there is this part of the brain, midline center, that has a very unique component. And this is the component. What that shows is that at rest, okay, you have your beta waves and alpha waves and theta waves, you know. But during meditation, that's elevation of all those waves. Elevation of beta, alpha, and theta. It wasn't that beta was replaced by theta. It's as previously, people couldn't see the beta because it's covered by the alpha. It's not slowing down of the brain waves. It's elevation of beta and of beta that you sometimes don't see, and elevation of alpha and theta. And then back to rest, they come down. So what that means is during meditation, you certainly have high theta and alpha representing deep rest. You have a great increase in beta waves, which is indicative of high mental concentration. So this master wasn't sleeping. He was highly concentrated, some of them on the dantian, okay, or on the third eye, or in Pangu, it'll be like, concentrating on the sun spinning anti-clockwise, clockwise, or in Kundalini yoga, they're concentrating on the Venus, they're concentrating on something, okay? So they're getting a double benefit. In other words, yeah.
Back to that chart.
Back to the chart.
Yeah. So that means after meditation, they have higher theta waves. So
that's a lingering effect, yeah.
So that means that they are in higher healing, potential healing?
They're still very relaxed. See, the rest is kind of artificial. So I say, okay, Effie, just don't do anything for 10 minutes. Then I just say, knock at the door, isn't necessary. I say, Effie, start to meditate, okay? And then 30 minutes, I say, stop. So when I say stop, there's a lingering effect. They're like, still very calm and restful. So in other words, the independent component analysis of the EEG shows an increase in theta, alpha, and beta waves during Qigong meditation, indicative of a state of deep rest and mental concentration. So they are really sharpening their mind, and they're training the mind to focus, and that's so important nowadays, for everyday life, from your work to your schoolwork to your, studying. People are not concentrating well because of so many distractions. The TV is going, and check email, check eBay, all sorts of things. These people are like razor sharp by training. They get plenty of rest and they can concentrate. So there are studies at medical schools where they divided students into two groups. The meditated group, has higher GPA afterwards and so forth. So that's all very consistent. Now, bioenergy level. People always say, I'm filled with energy, okay. So what energy, measurable as heat. We show that the high-level people could really just, by intention, heat up their hands by quite a few degrees, quantified by infrared camera. Normal subjects, by deep breathing and doing this stuff, could also heat up their hands, okay? But the high-level people, by intention, could drive this. High-level Qigong master, on demand, they could send out more light from their hand, okay? So this is called single photon counting. We built this device that's completely dark, and it counts down to single photons, and we say to the master, saying, just don't do anything, relax, and we counted like 10 photons per second, very precise. Then we say, well, put the chi in your hand, okay, and immediately jumped up 60% to 16 photons per minute. And say, relax, comes right back. Do it again, go up. Relax, do it again. So on demand, by intention, they could actually raise it just like that. Control subjects and lesser people, after doing Qigong exercises, before and after, they get an increase. But again, the high-level people could do it by intention. Everybody's doing GDV, I couldn't leave that out. So here, you've heard this many times from other people, Dr. Rubik and so forth. So we asked the subjects to put a finger one at a time on a piece of glass, and then we put a charge on the glass, pulls the electrons out of the hand, creates a spark, and the digital camera takes a picture of the spark, and the software analyzes that. Okay, so that gives us a way to look at the bioelectric field associated with the fingers. And an example is, before Tai Chi, this finger, puts out that much electrical field that you can detect from the spark that it created. But we could quantify this, the normalized area is 1.15. And then following Tai Chi, it goes, you can see the difference, but the numbers goes up almost fourfold. Another way to measure this type of energy is by measuring the internal resistance along the meridians measured at the Jingwell acupuncture point. So we use the Motoyama method called single square voltage pulse method, where we put for a 1 millisecond period, we put in 4 volts, and then see how conductivity, how high conductivity you can get by measuring each of the Jingwell points of all 12 meridians. So this is not skin conductance, this is deep into the tissue. And again, we measure people before and after, okay? And we show that the high level Qigong people show something like 30, at least 20% increase. That's very significant. The reproducibility of this machine is like 1%, okay? So these are big changes in conductance. When we get the same people or control subjects to ride the bicycle, there's almost no change, okay? Lifting weights, there's zero change. Interestingly, with acupuncture treatment, you can get, about as much as a very experienced Qigong Tai-Chi person. And acupoint massage, okay, quite a bit. And then interestingly, heat treatment, just warming in warm water will give you that. So a summary of that is that control subjects and practitioners of Tai Chi Qigong, and we've got now N equals 45 to 50 now, that many people. Before and after they do Qigong Tai Chi, there's an increase in the blood flow, increase in the conductance, increase in photons, increase in bioelectric field, and so on. They all increase. And if you just get control people to put their hands in warm water, all of these would come up too, okay? Temperature would increase, electrical field will increase, light will increase, they all increase. So it's all consistent. So if you get more blood in there by intention or through these different movements, you're going to increase all the biomarkers related to energy. Now, I'm not saying those markers are markers for Qi, but it's a type of energy. So in conclusion, Qigong, recent research has shown that Qigong Tai Chi practices can produce measurable and reproducible changes in physiological and bioenergy markers. Many of these changes can be explained by increased blood flow and conscious control of the autonomic nervous system. And some of these changes can also be produced by acupuncture therapy. And I want to close by thanking our collaborators in all these institutions and generous funding from the Samuel Institute for Information Biology, and from my very good friend Joseph and Sulin Li for their endowment for Chinese medicine research. Thank you very much.